high in the midnight sky as the sound of muffled laughter and music drifted through the neighborhood. The Petersons' house was alive tonight. Inside, the furniture had been shoved aside, rugs rolled back, tables and chairs pushed against the walls. A makeshift dance floor took center stage, and it was packed with neighbors and friends. "We're going to have us a good time tonight," someone shouted, clapping along to the beat of the music. Every time the beat dropped, the crowd came alive, skipping and dipping in rhythm, their voices rising in a joyful chorus. What in the world could be better than this, getting together again after so long apart? Across the street, 15-year-old Danny sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the ceiling and frowning. The last time they'd thrown a party like this, it had ended with the sun creeping up on the horizon. He'd been there, dancing and laughing with the others. That was until his mom caught wind of it. "You're grounded for the rest of the month," she'd said at the time. "No parties. Stay in the house." But Danny was a bad boy at heart. The beat from the Petersons' party was too strong to resist. He peeked through his window and spotted his best friend Max on the sidewalk below, motioning for him to come down. With a grin, Danny grabbed his sneakers and tiptoed to the window. He slid it open just enough to slip out, careful not to wake his parents. The cool night air hit his face as he climbed down the lattice. "Come on," Max whispered, pulling him toward the glowing house across the street. "We'll sneak in through the back. Nobody'll notice." The music swelled as they approached the house. Danny could feel the bass in his chest, the laughter and cheers drawing him closer. He wasn't supposed to be here, but nothing was going to keep him from dancing tonight. As dawn broke, Danny climbed the trellis back into his room, his heart still pounding from the thrill of the night. He was careful to close the window quietly, stow his sneakers, and slip back into bed without making a sound. He stared at the ceiling, the echoes of music and laughter still buzzing in his head, and smiled. He had pulled it off, or so he thought. The smell of bacon wafting upstairs woke Danny a few hours later. He yawned, stretched, and shuffled downstairs, his body aching slightly from hours of dancing. In the kitchen, his mom was at the stove, humming softly. She glanced at him as he entered, her expression unreadable. "Good morning," she said, her tone even, but with a sharp edge that made Danny pause. "Morning," Danny replied cautiously, grabbing a glass of orange juice. He could feel her eyes on him, and he shifted uncomfortably. "Did you sleep well?" she asked, her voice too casual. Yeah, pretty well," Danny said, avoiding her gaze. His mom turned off the stove, set down the spatula, and folded her arms. "That's funny," she said, her tone suddenly sharper. "Because I went to check on you last night around midnight and you weren't in your room." Danny froze, the glass halfway to his lips. His mind raced for an excuse, but nothing plausible came to him.
"Care to explain?" she asked, her eyebrows raised. Danny swallowed hard. I just went out for a bit," he admitted, knowing there was no point in lying. "To the Petersons' party?" she pressed, her voice rising. Danny nodded, bracing himself for the fallout. His mom sighed, shaking her head. "Danny, I grounded you for a reason. You can't just sneak out whenever you feel like it. Do you have any idea how worried I was when I didn't find you in your room?" "I'm sorry, Mom," Danny said, his voice quiet. "But everyone was there, and it was so much fun. I couldn't just sit here and miss it." "That's not the point," she snapped. "The point is, you disobeyed me. Again. Do you know what trust means, Danny? It means I need to be able to rely on you to follow the rules even when you don't agree with them. Sneaking out is not how you build trust." Danny opened his mouth to argue but closed it again. She wasn't wrong. "You're grounded," she continued. "And this time no loopholes. No phone, no video games, and definitely no parties." Danny groaned. "Mom, come on." "No," she said firmly. "Actions have consequences, Danny. Until you prove that I can trust you again, this is how it's going to be." Danny slumped in his chair, defeated. The memories of the party, as wonderful as they were, suddenly felt a little less worth it. Later that day, as he stared out his bedroom window, he saw Max across the street. Max gave him a thumbs up, grinning from ear to ear. Danny couldn't help but smile back, despite everything. The party had been incredible, but he knew he'd have to work hard to regain his mom's trust. As the weeks passed, Danny stayed true to his word, helping around the house, keeping up with schoolwork, and, most importantly, staying inside. Slowly, the tension between him and his mom began to ease. One evening, as they were cleaning up dinner together, his mom looked at him and said, "You've been doing a good job, Danny." "I appreciate that." Danny looked up, surprised. "Thanks, Mom. I mean it. I'm sorry for sneaking out. I won't do it again." She nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "We'll see about that. But for now, I'm glad you're learning. Trust isn't rebuilt overnight." Danny nodded, realizing she was right. The Petersons' parties would always be there. But trust? That was something worth holding on to.